I'm Libby from ProWritingAid, and I'm joined with JoEllen today. And we are back with Self-Editing School, where JoEllen from First Editing shares all of her best insider editor tips. So it's the last one of the year already. I can't believe it. Yeah, I know.
It's crazy, huh?
I know. What have you got for us today, JoEllen?
Today we're speed dating, although I don't know if my husband knows about this, but we're doing editor speed dating, and it's about the questions you should know so that you can ask and find the best editor for you. Because again, it's a very personal thing, and it is your baby that you're going to be giving them your baby, you're handing it over, so you got to be careful. And so we're going to talk about what are the things to look for, what's available, and just learning maybe some things that maybe you didn't realize.
Brilliant. Over to you. Let's get started.
All right, great. I'm going to share my screen here. And we shall take off. Okay, looks good. Can you see that?
Candy.
I hope so. Okay, excellent. All I see there. All right, perfect. I'm going to scoot over here. So today we're doing speed editing. Let me, if I can blow this up a little bit so that I can see any questions. I'll just carry on. All right, so basically we're doing speed editing, and let's see if I can, there we go. So we are going to cover basically 10 questions today. There's a lot more, and some of them I've expanded on, so feel free to ask any questions at the end. There's always going to be a lot of questions, and I'm just basing these on what we deliver, our standards. So there may be some differences out there, but what we're trying to do is just kind of create one base, one foundation of the highest quality so that you can come from those expectations and know that you've received the best that you can out there. So with that being said, we're going to start with what is your professional editing experience. So when you're talking to the editor that you're considering, first off, I want to clarify that we're looking at professional editors here. That means that they've done this in the past. They've been compensated in money for doing this, and that they have some experience. So it's very important that we talk about that an editor is not your mom, it's not your friend, it's not your neighbor. And even if it's your professor at the university, it really makes a big difference on how they're going to approach it. If they're doing it as a, as a favor to you, or if they're doing it and they have the objectivity, the neutral honesty, the professional feedback that you should be expecting, that makes a huge difference on what you're going to walk away with and how inspired you're going to be to really make the revisions and to also respect their insight. It's very important. So when we look at the professional experience, we want to talk about the certifications and the training. And I mentioned certifications because, there are now professional certifications that you can have as an editor. You can go to the university, you can take classes and courses. And one of the things that we have at First Editing that's new and really changing the playing field out there in the professional editing world is that we are the first in the world certified story coach editors, which is basically structural story editing for fiction. And it's very important. So it's new out there, but this is really setting objective standards, checklists, a foundation of what to expect. And we're doing that in an effort to take us to the highest level possible and to provide the best out there. So training also is something, if they're working in the professional world, your editor will get extensive on the job training. There will be standards that they're being held to. There will be somebody looking over their shoulder and making sure that they're representing, as we do, representing our company correctly and not misleading. And that's very, very important. If they're working for or with somebody in a professional manner, that means that they've also been vetted. And that's a really important thing. When we go into the professional experience, there are different editors for different books, for different agents, different companies, different whatever it is. So one of the things that you really need to look for is somebody who's an expert in your genre. And so if they've done romance or sci-fi or, detective crime mysteries, whatever it may be, that they have a general understanding and experience with this, not just because of the writing, but because of the audience. Your book, its success, and this right now I'm just talking about fiction, But I will, we also offer editing for nonfiction, academic, and research. So again, these questions are relative straight across the board, but you want to make sure that whoever is editing your manuscript is editing for the perspective of the reader, to keep them engaged, to meet the promises that you've made either through your blurb or where you're submitting it, and that it matches the expectations of that genre, because there will be certain links, there will be certain patterns, forms that they should be following. And again, if you want to excel, then you really need to make sure that you're meeting those parameters. And then of course, we want to talk about that professional again means they're paid. If it's a volunteer work, how committed are you? There are good people in the world. I'm not saying they can't provide it, but I would take the volunteers as your beta readers and on that level. So that's the way it is. We're talking about professional editors today. So the ideal qualifications, again, we're looking at these, mentioned that certified in making sure they have those. Any advanced relevant degrees, for example, when we do research and academic editing here, then our PhD editors are the ones who are doing that. We have PhD professors who have been through that vetting process, who have published in journals and those different areas. You want to have advanced and relevant degrees for those if at all possible. You want them professionally trained and tested so that you don't have to be the guinea pig. Really, editing is not cheap, so don't make yourself the one that they get to cut their teeth on. Make sure that you get what you pay for and that you get a good quality delivery in that. So make sure that they're familiar, as I mentioned, and confident in your genre. They have some publishing experience and they have references. This means that they could show you where they have worked with different authors, books, they have testimonials, they have a nice background that you can feel confident in. And I know that there's many editors who respond, well, that's confidential information. Well, they need to be able to show you something. It's just the way the world works nowadays. We can't hide behind that. And if they can't, you should question why. So you want them to be an expert in your audience. So these are the simple demands that you need to be making. So editors for your genre, the reason why I want to expand on that a little bit here today is that, are they fulfilling the expectations of your audience? Again, people who read romance have a certain expectation and they need to feel that they're following those patterns and they will recognize it subconsciously. So your editor needs to be aware of that. You need to be aware of that. Are you engaging your audience? Are you creating characters and romance or whatever in this example? Are you engaging your audience? Are you making sure that if you're doing a nonfiction where it's motivational, inspirational, educational, are you making promises? Are you getting them to take the actions that you desire in that book? And lastly, are you fulfilling those promises? The promises come in your blurb. It comes in your blurb. It comes on the book jacket cover, different areas like that. However you're marketing, whatever your description is on Amazon, Kobo, wherever you're putting that out, you want to make sure that you're fulfilling those promises. And the editor's job is to, one, understand what your promises are, and to ensure and confirm that you are achieving that. So it's very, very important. And that was just our first question for our editor today. So second question, as we come back to that, I can't tell you. Yeah, they need to tell you. So what have you professionally edited? So they should be an expert in your genre, your audience, and publishing goal, and they should be able to prove that through showing you the books, showing you the different testimonials that are out there. So what are your qualifications? We mentioned again, that experience and knowledge. You want to make sure that if they have any certifications, again, it's just qualifying them even more for what you need. And they should have that advanced affiliation. There's also various editing societies out there and memberships. That's always a good signal that they're participating, they're keeping up on today's work and the industry and making sure that they're going to provide you the best quality. And then of course you want to see and communicate with some of their authors in the books to see what they provided there. the question is, why should I trust you? And I know that's a weird question to ask, but they should be able to pitch to you and basically tell you what it is. And when I say trust, why should I trust you? Well, they should have some guarantees set up. Okay, if you find an error and you're hiring a human here, we're not talking about software, and even software makes mistakes because the rules are not straight across the board. But what is their policy for fixing those errors, for resolving that, for having a discussion about why it is the way it is? What is their policy or guarantee to you in this process? How are they, how fast will they do it? Are there extra charges? Is it a different situation? Have that clearly outlined, because it is a dance. It is a complete dance that you're doing with your editor. And you want to make sure that you are getting what you have requested and that you understand the entire engagement. Now, one of the interesting things is that I encourage you, and there should be a link somewhere here on ProWritingAid, is that ProWritingAid, myself, and Fictionary, we put together an ebook called Your Editing Journey. And again, understanding the process makes it a little bit easier for you to know what to ask for. So if you want to read more, and I know that we're all readers here, go ahead and download that book. And all of the links that are on my files today will be available. I will send those to you so you can check those out too. So what guarantees do you have? Oops, let's see here. And what is your history of happy clients again? And so one of the things I really like to talk about is the satisfaction guarantee. And I learned that early on in our business that, that's just not something that's out there. So many editors are working in a freelance gig economy, and it's very hard. There's also been no objective way of measuring, was it accurately and thoroughly edited? But now, as we're using technology such as, an example here is the tool of ProWritingAid, the certification that we've done as story coaches, that we know what the minimum is to review. You can hand me the work of one of my editors and I can say, yes, they have successfully dug into this, given comments, provided a summary letter, made the corrections at the level of which they've been hired, etc. So it's very important that if you can get somebody who can give you a satisfaction guarantee and understand what that means. It may not be a money back guarantee. Make sure that they're not promising you the world. Beware those who say, well, I'll edit your book and you'll get published. Well, who's publishing it and what does that mean? Who owns the book? Is anybody going to buy it? Being published is totally different from being a bestseller or being accurately published out there where other people are engaged and following you. So again, beware somebody who can promise it all, but make sure that you can outline what the promises are and kind of have your expectations, understood, and to know that if they aren't going to provide something, that it's very clear from the very beginning. So that's important. Communication is super important with editors. The reason why we have self-editing school is because, the better you understand the editing process, the better writer you become, the better editor you become, and the easier it is for you to communicate with your editor about what you need, what you want, and understand what is going to be delivered. So it's very important from the very beginning that you understand this, because editors communicate and edit differently. So although we're trying to set a general standard and there is different levels that are there, many of an author has walked through our doors and said, oh, this has already been edited, and it was not sufficient. But one of the important things is to remember that also every editor will be able to edit. It's very subjective. It's when we go back into the objective, knowing exactly that all the rules have been followed, that all of the syntax is correct, the grammar, spelling, punctuation, etc., that we have that as the base. Then we have, when we do structural editing, that we're following the form of the story arc, we're following the conflict, the resolution, the 5 key scenes, and we're getting all this done. So that's what they're providing. Now I put on here the second line, you can have do-it-yourself revisions or done-for-you corrections. That's an important thing to consider. Are you expecting your editor to do everything? Or are you actually going to dig dig back down into that manuscript and do it yourself through the revision process? And that really depends upon what you're writing, why you're writing, what your goals are, etc. Those services are available. We offer both to make sure that you know exactly what to expect. So that being said, are you a good match for each other? How do we know? Well, part of this is the question. Questions that we're asking one another help us determine, do I like you? Do I want to release my baby to you? Do I trust that you will honor my voice as an artistic creator? Will you make the corrections that I agree with that are subjective? And when you make an objective correction that is necessary, can you communicate to me why it's necessary, what's to be done, and help me understand as an author to be a better writer and a better self-editor? So these are important things. And the only way that I can tell you again to know is to get a free sample. This was the #1 solution we came up with when we got involved. Well, when I got involved back in 2007, and the only solution was, okay, how do we do this? And it was, well, they need to see it. And how do we do that? You have to provide a sample. That means it has to be edited on your document. And some people do that at a charge, other people do it free, and some people don't do it at all. They'll just give you an example. But decide if you feel comfortable with whatever they're offering, because that's what you're going to get in the end. And when you're doing this, what are they communicating to you? Are they able to clearly outline what they see your manuscript needs? There are certain needs, and the needs are based upon what stage of editing you're in. Are you still in the structural, developmental, creative stage, or are you in the line editing where we're just following the flow and the style and making sure it all does very well? Or are you ready to do that final copy edit right before going into formatting? So there are different things, and your needs will be defined by the status of your manuscript. What do you want? Do you want somebody to critique it, review it, give you feedback, to confirm, yes, it is good? Because every author who walks through our doors says, is it any good? Well, if you ask your mom or your neighbor or your friend, they're going to say, well, yeah. But wouldn't it be better to get an objective, neutral, third-party, trained, qualified professional consultant who could say, these parts are particularly strong, extremely well done. This part is where it's weak. This is how you fix it. And this is exactly what you need to do to make that correction, that revision effective. So that's what you want to do. So figure out what you want. And of course, outline that. That's why we're here today. If you can clearly communicate with your author what you want and also what your goals are, they can better assist you. So what are their professional services? Do they do consultation? Do they, meet with you again? Is it multiple rounds of editing? Is it a single edit at a set price? There are different levels there, and it will be important that you understand that and that is clearly outlined before you pay. So, and then again, we're outlining here today, what are your expectations? What do you want? You've heard other people have gotten this, that, or whatever. Is that what this particular editor that you have seen their sample and you understand how they communicate, are they going to meet your expectations? And then again, what are your goals for your book? Are you writing it to become a bestseller? Are you writing a memoir for your family? Are you trying to become an expert? Are you submitting for research? And whatever it may be, please make sure that you know what your goals are. And the clearer you can share that with your editor, the more they can assist you in achieving that. So, and again, always ask yourself, what is this editor promising me? And if they're making promises, can they deliver? And what guarantees do I have that they're going to deliver what they promised, when they promised, and follow up on anything after the fact, after the purchase, so make sure that. So again, what we're dealing with here is, get a sample. I really encourage you, if you haven't done this, you're all welcome to come to us. That's what we do when you're ready to edit. So again, take that request. And, there are different directories out there that you can go through and just review. If you're a person who really wants to dig in deep and interview and review and check out every single editor, then go to a directory service and ask them for their work. If you want that work done for you, you want the correct, candidates for your manuscript brought forward, then a service like ours is better. If you have somebody out there that has been recommended from somebody else, then please reach out to them directly. But again, I would ask each of them for some sort of sample. So when you get that sample, it will show you exactly what level of editing, it'll, based upon where you are in the editing stages, are you in the structural, the content, the line, the copy editing? And I'm not going into all of those today. We've gone into that again and again and again. If you need that information, you're welcome to drop me an email. Editors at First Editing will send you the right link where you can get all that information. There's loads of links from past self-editing school and lots of great videos here to follow up on the different levels of editing. So I'm not going to go into those today. I can attach them to the handouts later, but I'm not doing that right now. When you get the sample, they're going to recommend a level of editing based upon the status of your manuscript, how well you're conquering syntax, grammar, spelling, punctuation, style, consistency, transitions, point of view, verbs, blah, 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 blah. Okay. They're going to look at where you are in the editing, which level you are, if you're doing the structural whatever. And based on all that and what the instructions or questions or expectations that you've expressed, when they take those three things, then they're going to make a professional recommendation on what they feel would best meet your needs and desires, and they're going to tell you why. So let's talk a little bit about that. So the professional recommendations, as I mentioned, editing stage, are you still organizing, order, the whole transition of the document? Then that's structural. If you are looking at how it's written and making sure that it's clean and consistent and continual, and you're digging in a little bit deeper, you have the content on down to the line editing, and the final editing before you go into formatting is the copy editing. So those are the different editing stages, and they're going to look at this. They should be able to see it, but also by asking questions, they will know. The level of editing is based upon that and your manuscript's status. And then lastly, of course, what you're asking for, what your questions are, what your needs are, what your expectations are, what you want to achieve, all of those are under that third level or that third area of desired services. So, sorry, I was talking, I thought you had all three of those. So we have the editing stage, the level of editing, and the desired services. So you're going to look at these, and then you need to have an editor in the same way that they specialize in your genre. They should also specialize in that level of editing. So, we have certified structural editors. So structural editors are delivering a whole different game than copy editors, and it's just the way it's done, and they look for different things and they're focusing on that, and those are the editors you want to work with when you're in that stage of editing. Content editors, line editors, copy editors, again, all of them are there, and I've included links to each of our pages which kind of explains those different levels of editing and what the editors are providing there. So these are included in your handouts. Again, I'm not going to dig in because every week we go into the levels of editing, and this time I want to make sure that you can access this more and learn it on your own. And again, reach out and contact us if you have any questions. So when you have got your free sample and you have outlined what your expectations are and your instructions and what your needs are, then you need to know what am I going to get from you Just because you have this list of expectations, you have this list of needs and desires and wants, does not mean that your editor, that particular editor you're approaching at that time, can fulfill it. So you want to make sure that you know what you're going to get. And every editor is going to answer differently. So I'm answering from the perspective of how we answer for all of our editors, because they're held to this standard of delivery. So there are 4 stages of editing: the structural editing, the content editing, the line editing, and the copy editing. All of those are followed by proofreading, which is done after formatting. So they will deliver according to their specialty and according to what you need and what you're requiring. So when you're looking at those, they're all 4 of those, they'll deliver the appropriate level of editing. So you can click on any of those and find out. And then those will be done, corrected in the track changes or whichever format that they're working in. For example, when we're doing Story Coach editing, then we're using a different software because it is specialized for that. But regardless, you will be able to see the changes, and those corrections are made on your behalf, either directly for everyone, or they're annotated and said, okay, look, you have a continual challenge with the point of view or the verb tense or whatever it may be, so that you can go through during the next stage, the revisions, and make those corrections, unless you've asked the editor to do them all for you. Regardless, they're not going to hand you back a completed, already done, ready to sell book. Why? This is still your baby, and you need to be responsible for your name, your reputation, and your voice. That means you need to go through and approve every single change and agree with it. And if you don't agree with it, find out why, or, reject it. Whatever reason it needs to be done. But ultimately, it has to be your book. So we're not going to make those changes. You need to do that. Please take this seriously. You can, in track changes on Word, you can select accept all. Oh, don't do it. It's so much better if you go through and individually accept them and look at them and review them, because this process is in depth and it will help you see, in the same way that ProWritingAid has these fantastic reports to let you know where your challenges are and where your strengths are and what you're doing well, and you can see how you evolve. When you deal and work with a professional editor, you will become a better writer, and you will get to see and know yourself better through the corrections that you receive back, and you'll feel stronger. So I encourage you to do that. So included in this editing, the editing sample or the editing project that you've proposed, there's also, you're going to have embedded notes and feedback. That's very important because they're telling you what they would recommend, what you've done well, where it's lagging, what, pick up the pace, different things that they're evaluating there. So make sure you take a look at those notes and the feedback. Long ago, we did recently a webinar about traditional editing, which was using, Excel and doing these cross-referencing, and you really had to connect it back to the right chapter. And it was quite dizzying, to say the least. So now they're embedded there in either the track changes or next to your manuscript on the screen, and you can get the feedback from the editor. You can compare your summary letter. You can compare all of their recommendations and reasonings, and there's also support material there telling you why they've made this and what that means, so that you can learn. So again, take a look at each of those, read each of those, understand. If you have questions, come back to your editor. And then of course the recommendations of how to engage your audience, how to deliver on the promises that you've made, how to achieve the goals of your book, how to achieve the goals as an author, and various things like that. So again, they're going to make recommendations based upon these objectives that were clearly outlined in the communication early on. So again, using these 10 different questions, we want to make sure that we are better communicating with our editors and becoming better writers in the process, and delivering a better quality manuscript for the So examples of deliverables beyond the editing levels that I mentioned, beyond the feedback and the track changes. These are other things that you can look for and expect. These, and I'm just giving an example here from our highest level structural editing. This is what we deliver now. This should be the new norm. And if not, I think that you would be better served placing your order with somebody who will deliver these. Okay, that's our preemptive there. So a summary letter should include a critique of your writing, the overall manuscript, the basic structure, what was strong, what you did really well, what they liked, areas where you need to correct, adjust, tweak, fix the pace, whatever it may be. Those will all be there in a critique. You're also going to get lots of different support materials that help you better understand what we're doing as editors, what we're looking at, what we're trying to achieve on your behalf. Some of these things will include such things as visuals with the story arc we use as we cut, change, move, as you make those revisions, then the software we're using will automatically adjust so that you can see that and make sure that your story arc fits the form of what the subconscious is seeking. You know, we've been writing since the beginning of time, and the human brain loves certain patterns. And when those subconscious expectations are not met, then your editor or your readers are not as engaged and they're not as happy. So what we're doing is looking for those from an objective manner to make sure that you're achieving what's necessary there in such things as the story arc. We're also going to go through and look at the word count and the scenes, and we're going to analyze those to make sure that there's a balance in the delivery of the length that affects your pace and how it feels to your readers, and also how it matches your genre. You know, the length of your entire manuscript is important, that it matches the general expectations of your genre. We'll also look into the story map, making sure that it's working there. We have elements, the story elements that we've looked at with Fictionary. Done a whole web series. You can go on to you can go on to First Editing's YouTube channel, and you can see our 38 story element series with Fictionary. And this is what we're doing behind the scenes. You can do it one by one yourself in preparation, or we can do it for you. And I can tell you a lot of our clients really appreciate an editor coming in and having that objection and filling in the blanks for them. It just, wow, what a relief after writing so much. So we're also going to have an objective check of all those elements. We're going to report on that back to you. We're going to deliver it within the software. So the delivery there is it's the way that it's formatted is special to the delivery, which allows you to make the corrections, the revisions, and cross-reference the notes, the feedback, the summary letter, all within there. And this is amazing. This is what's happening. So all the software should be held to this standards. All the editors should be held to these standards. Why would you go for anything less? You know, especially when I know that our prices are very competitive and most people aren't delivering this yet because we were the first. And lastly, of course, coaching, consultation, getting that feedback. It's well worth the time to it's well worth the money and time to put your mind at ease. So consider that. You put in no less than months and probably years of writing. Don't toss it away with cheap editing or not editing. It's really necessary in today's world. There are millions of people writing right now. They're all sitting at their keyboards worldwide, and there's only so much that these publishers and everybody else can do. How do you make sure that you achieve your goals? Well, an editor will help you do that, and having a coach or a consultation with somebody to objectively define what your goals are, what you've achieved, what you're still needing to process and revise to make those other goals achievable. Super important, super important. The best athletes, the best people in the world have a coach. You should too. So I've mentioned a couple times, how much does it cost? And this comes up every single time we talk about it. And you want to find out from each editor. I cannot tell you how much it costs for, there's no one set price, but I can definitely tell you how much it costs for us, and I can give you ideas of how people charge. So firstly, there are different editors charge on different manners. It can be an hourly fee. It can be a flat fee per word. It can be the different editing levels have different prices. Of course, if you're getting a structural edit, it is more intense than a copy edit. And so those editors are more trained, and they're definitely going to, be rewarded for that expertise. At First Editing, we do the per word fee based upon the editing level and the needs of your manuscript. So if you need an additional add-on, such as an executive content edit, which means we need to get the comprehension and the reading up a little bit more, then it increases accordingly. But you will definitely get a price quote based on the word count, the genre in which you're doing that. And then, of course, if for some reason you have something which happens a lot with academics, a time deadline, then of course there are rush services available. But I do want to emphasize that editing, professional editing, is the largest and the most important investment in your writing. I will repeat, professional editing is the largest and most important investment in your writing. It is essential. So we're all here on self-editing school to learn how to do some of this ourselves, to not have to do multiple rounds of professional editing, to really come in with the best delivery, to have clear communication, to have clear expectations, to walk away with knowing we got the best deliverables out there and the best service available. So make sure that you're aware of this. But again, it's the largest investment. So do that. And if you don't know what you need, request that free sample. If you don't know which editor you would be best for you, ask us. We'll be glad to help you. And if we're not the right match for you, at least you walk away better educated and understanding the process. So again, try the ebook, get a free sample, understand the process, get knowledgeable so that you will get the best return on your investment there. So professional editing services are not cheap. Bing. We're doing this so you know what to expect. And I hope that you will learn and understand the process. I just included this in here. It's also available on ProWritingAid on their website here. I'm sure that Libby or somebody can throw that up. If not, you can click on this link here. We have it available from our website. Also, same book, same production. It was done a collaboration between us, ProWritingAid, and Fictionary to create that. So what does this editor, another question for you to ask is, what do they offer in addition to editing? And I like to ask this question because it's a double-edged sword. Okay, so they're going to have services and more. Things that you can look for are critiques and reviews, synopses, consultations, any kind of enhancements, and that would include things like ghostwriting or rewrites or English as a second language, getting help with that type of editing, your bio for your book, the final proofread, multiple round edits, whatever it may be. So there's a lot of these, and you can click and see just a list of ours. That being said, you do not want somebody who can promise you the world, because nobody's an expert in everything. And if they're making promises that we'll do your editing, we'll get your summary letter, we're going to get you top #1, and just beware. There are people who do a full service program and they do it very well and they deliver it, but it will not be a pay your money, walk away, and it magically happens. You're going to be involved in a very in-depth process. And I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to get a marketing team. I encourage you to get a launch team. I encourage you to learn about advertising and your blurbs and how you put an accurate description and defining your genre and your subgenre and your sub-niche and blah, 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 blah. All these things. It's funny, you thought you were done writing, right? All of these things go into creating a book. So if you have the ability to invest in a full production team and they can get you to the bestseller, absolutely go for it. But if you get somebody who just says, okay, give me your book, pay it, and you can walk away, buyer beware. Nobody can be an expert in everything. And they, just make sure. And again, comes back to looking at their history, looking at their testimonials, looking at their successfully published authors to see what is provided there and why. So again, just ask and validate. It's what all we can do in life, right? Trust, but always validate. So last one, the very, very, very important one that we have here, and then we're going to go into your questions. We're a little bit faster today because I didn't dig deep into every editing level, is can I see examples of your work or test your editing skills first? Try before you buy. How do I know that you can deliver what you say you can? And if they can't prove it, well, make sure. So know what you're getting. Ask them for examples, ask them for samples, ask them for testimonials or references. We slap those all over our website. Why wouldn't we? We're super proud of everybody who gets published. It's, it's like watching your children graduate. You just, you can't help but be excited and happy for them and wish them the best on their way. And of course, that you were part of that and you helped achieve that with them. They get all the glory, but as an editor, they should be able to show you testimonials and references. And if nothing else, always, always, always ask for the free samples. Ask for a sample. Some editors will charge you. That's fine, whatever. If you really want to work with that person, then do so. But make sure that before you get started, so there's no surprises. And again, if you need an editing sample, you're welcome to approach us or any other editor out there. I encourage you to get them, compare them, see what works for you, and work your way through that. So again, it's always first editing, then publishing, which I found hilarious when I realized that was our name, because you can't publish before you edit, and that's just the way it is. There's a little bit more on this. Let me look down here on my PowerPoint here. It's going to be attached as part of the handouts. It just tells you about the certified structural editing. Let's see here. And it explains some of the structural editors, what they have, what they deliver, different things that are important like that. So I'll let you go through this manually yourself in the handout, so you have that. And editor's job is to make sure that everything exists for a reason. And that's what we do here. So again, make sure you learn about that, understand that we are being objective and evaluating everything from those perspectives, the word counts, everything. So this is all supplementary. And with that being said, I am ready to answer some questions. So let's see here. I'm going to the Q&A. Give me 1 second. Do you have a contact list of literary agents by genre? That is something we do not provide at First Editing. Some do, but we're not making promises to get you there. First Editing, we're quite unique in the sense that, because self-publishing, we really have been part of this whole wave of self-publishing in the industry there. And we serve everyone from a brand new aspiring author to those who are bestsellers who repeat again and again. The reason why they choose to work with us is that they need to feel solid and confident in the work that they have before they take it to the agent. So we're not the publishing agent. We're not the in-house editor who's going to do that. Any good publishing agent is going to have that. And who you're contacting for the literary agents, that's part of your research based upon your genre and subgenre. And, to provide those services, we'd have to charge for it. So we just don't. I hope that answers your question. The answer is no, but it's everywhere. Google. Everyone pick up your phone. You can do it. So, answered. Done. Let's see here. Referring back to track changes, embedded notes, etc., is there a certain software, Word, Google Docs, etc., that's preferred? The cool thing about the technology that we have today is that track changes is no longer just a Word track change feature. You'll see it quite often in all of the online forms and different things. In the same way that ProWritingAid has all these different attachments and add-ons and tools that you can find in different areas. You can now insert and have those track changes as part of the different softwares that you may be using out there. And there's a lot of writing softwares, there's a lot of writing tools, editing softwares, editing tools. So they all should be and have those track changes features. So there's not one that's definitely preferred. It's whatever you're using. So if you're using Scrivener, if you're using Storyteller, if you're using different ones out there, then just trust the one that's in there. And as long as it highlights and shows the changes that are being made, that's great. You always want to make sure that you're in the editing mode when you're performing those changes and corrections. All right. What do you recommend for someone who has English as a second language? There could be more issues with grammar, etc. Wow. Yes. And I am so glad you're asking this, because at First Editing, we deal with this a lot because we offer editing not just for fiction, but we do nonfiction, which are marketing and executives and different people like that. And then we also have the research, which are all of the professors who are published annually 3-4 times a year. They're doing different research. And of course, the academics also, which are postgraduate and PhD candidates, etc. As they are, approaching us, there are many who have English as a second language. They're brilliant, super intelligent, highly capable people who've done all the necessary work. It's just a language thing that gets in the way. So again, what we do at First Editing is we have what's called an executive content edit, which means the content is when you're looking at how the words in the language is being used. And an executive means that we're going to dig in a little bit deeper, and we're going to take care of you as an English as a second language. It is well worth noting when you're approaching any editor to let them know which languages you're going into. And another consideration out there, if you're having your book translated into other languages, you're going to need it edited in that language, especially when you change different alphabets. When you go from Cyrillic to the Roman alphabet to, Asian characters, there's different variations there, and a lot of things happen. And also, it's just like when you watch a movie in one language to the next, the humor, the meaning, the intent, it all changes. So it is very important that you make your editor highly aware of that English is your second language. Point out any areas where you think you have done a good job or any areas that you struggled, because that'll make it more clear to them what your intent was. So again, there are a lot more issues with grammar, and definitely make sure that you highlight that and you choose the English as a second language level of editing that's necessary for where you are, which stage you're in, which level of editing you need, and what your individual goals and desires are, and clearly communicate them, as we mentioned. All right, 1 second here. Can you give an estimated maximum and minimum cost for editing services? Oh, I wish. Minimum, I would say we are one of the most competitive out there and still offering a service that will be undercut by editors in a foreign language, perhaps coming to you from India or the Philippines, who do speak English, but it is a different communication and a different flow and style and diction that will come through in the writing. That being said, we offer the satisfaction guarantee, so I think that's important. But back to the question of minimum and maximum, the minimum that we have is around 1.5 cents per word. I think 1.5 cents per word is the lowest end, depending upon which level of editing, etc., per word. And maximum, well, the sky's the limit, because there will be people out there who say, well, I've edited for Stephen King, therefore, if you would like to hire me, I'm going to charge you, a minimum of $10,000, and it goes up from there, or whatever it may be. So just get a price quote. Click on the button. We have a, let me see here. I can put this in the chat. if you'd like to get find out what level of editing you need and get that free sample and get a price quote, I'm going to put it here and send it. And I'll also put it in the chat in a moment here. So this is going to everyone. So I hope I've explained that. So that's really good. We're very competitive. I know that without a doubt. But the max, whatever you want, whatever you think they're worth. So let's see here. Our editing services, oops. Oh, we got more coming in here. Wow. Okay. Got 9 minutes, folks. So I'm gonna do my best. Is it worth working with a publisher who handles women's writing specifically? How would they be different? Oh, that's hilarious. I think that just comes down to communication. You know, if you're choosing them, choose them on their skills and their representation. And if you feel that your needs are being met in that way, and if you found a woman who serves those, great. I think that it's really good to work with the underrepresented people in the industry, which may be women, people of color, absolutely, provided they have the skills and the training that you need. So is it worth it for you? That's a personal, it's a consultation, it's a coaching, it is a relationship, and that's what we're talking about tonight. So if you're more comfortable working with a woman, absolutely. How would they be different? That's an individual answer. So that is my answer there. Done. How do you know what level of editing you need? Please use that link I put in the chat and in the answers there so that you can find out, and the editor will do that based upon where you are in the editing stage and what your manuscript challenges are and what you ask as your instructions and desires. How clean, formatting, spelling, sentence structure, etc. should a manuscript be before submitting for editing? That is a great question. Ideally, you should have the full concept there. It should be comprehensive for the editor to understand what you're doing and you're saying. If you want to have notes in there, discussions, questions, those kind of things, that's totally acceptable. To put down a random manuscript that you dictated on your phone without any syntax and expect your editor to do that would be really expecting a lot. It can be done. You will pay for it though. So the more prepared you are, the better your editor can focus on your intent and not on just your syntax. So the more you prepare, the better quality you will get in return, or the less you prepare, the more rounds of editing you're going to need. I hope that answers your question. And so again, how clean does it need to be? It needs to be comprehensive. We need to understand what you're saying, and ideally should include the complete manuscript from start to end, and then we can help you from there. But again, you know, send it over to us. We're glad to talk about this. You know, I think that the human effect is being lost again and again, and that's what I really love about doing this self-editing school and the company that I work with, is that we phone every single person. If you leave us our phone number, we're going to call you up, a real human, and we're going to talk to you on the phone, old style. So it's really great. Okay, question, which editing level deals with quotations and footnotes? That's anytime you get into citations and that, we put that under research editing, because there's certain syntax that needs to be done there. We also need to know which manual of style you're following. So again, send it to us and we'll quote that specifically. How many words should be sent in a sample? Ideally 10,000 more. Ideally, we would love to have your entire manuscript, but we understand some people are not so comfortable with that. So, you know, the whole manuscript is the best, because then we can really see what you've done and give you a better answer there. 743. I jumped over your question, 743. Okay, I'm going back up here. Are editing services the same for self-publishing as well as submission through an agent? No, because when you are working with an agent, they may have an in-house editor that will have specific needs. They're also going to evaluate what if they're publishing, they know their audience, they know that industry, that area that they're going to push you towards, and they feel that you're a good match. But it also means that you're going to be expected to fulfill their requirements. It's you know, it's a cooperation, so it's a little bit different. When you're doing self-publishing, then that requires that you really know your market and your audience and all of that independently. So then you should match the general forms and the general formats that are out there to fit within those. So again, it blends in with marketing, and marketing is a little bit separate from the editing. So when you get to the next level, we're trying to get you in the door to talk to the agent or to make sure that you have a professional representation when you self-publish. But how that works in the marketing is a little bit different. So it's good to combine them. I just happened to glance over to the chat, and it says, is ProWritingAid enough as a tool for self-editing? There's a lot of different tools out there, and the great thing is that ProWritingAid actually combines into many of those tools out there, and they plug in very well. They play nicely, so you get a 2-for-1. So I would say it's not sufficient in total, because if you're self-editing, you should always do professional editing afterwards. All right, should Google translation from other languages into English edited in detailed way, or may it be published at site immediately? English is... Okay. I'm not sure that I understand this question. So should be Google translation from other language into English edited in detailed way, or may it be published at site immediately? No, you should definitely get it edited, because there's going to be a confusion there. English is well understood around the world, so not many people know its grammar like native speakers do. Absolutely. That's why you want to use a native speaking English who is born, raised, and living in your desired audiences. So if they're British, then they need to speak British and know all of that. American, Canadian, Australian. I mean, we're only talking about English here. So again, that's the way we go. I hope that answered your question. We only have 2 minutes, folks, so I'm going to do my best here. How large a sample? Typically review. We would love to have the entire manuscript if possible. 10,000 would be good enough. Do the editors of first editing use software to edit, or do they old school manually edit? We use software. With the structural editing, we use the Story Coach from Fictionary. And we, of course, old school now, being over a decade there, we're using the track changes features, which hasn't really changed, unfortunately, since late 80s, early 90s. But that is the standard. We use old school in that sense. That would be considered the old school online. But if you're talking about paper and pen, no, we don't. What organization certifies structural story coaches? That's Fictionary.co, and you can find links to them from our website. Okay, thank you for the answer. It helps me a lot. I'm British. Do I need a British editor rather than an American one? Good question. You should have somebody who has edited in British English, and you should indicate from the beginning that that is your audience. If they're English or British and they can cross over, that's fine, but definitely make sure that you indicate which level. We ask on the order form, you know, which are you doing, British, American, whatever you're doing. So that's important. I got here late, so how do I know when or where to send my query or manuscript? That's, if you're sending your manuscript, I'm going to assume you're asking for a manuscript for the sample edit. We've included that link in the answer, so I hope that is what we're doing. Just trying to get through these. Google Translate is terrible. Well, it's better than it used to be. So that is where we are. Let's see, I'm going to look here. It's 8 o'clock, folks. And I have enjoyed this immensely.
So have I. Oh, thank you, JoEllen. That was quick fire at the end there. If we couldn't get to your questions, really sorry. But we do post these every single month. So hopefully your question will get answered, and it's incentive for you to come back. Next month, JoEllen is going to be teaching us all about the signs that your editor may be wrong for you, which again, I feel like goes on the dating theme. I don't know what we're trying to do to you here, JoEllen, but so yeah, you can keep up to date with all of the topics that will be coming up in self-editing school on the ProWritingAid website. I have posted links to all of JoEllen's sample edits and all of her all of her links to everything that we've talked about in the chat, and you will get those in an email as well. And I will also send out the handouts in an email too. So yeah, all that's left to say is thank you very much, everybody, for coming along and for asking your questions. And JoEllen, thank you so much for another really wonderful presentation.
My pleasure. It's been great knowing everyone. I look forward to hearing from you, and please don't hesitate. The best way is just to reach out to Kathy, our administrator, and she can help you also. So I'm just the face. A lot of great editors behind me doing all the real work. So thank you so much, Libby. It was great seeing you. Everyone have a fantastic holiday.
Yes,
and
have a
happy
fantastic
new year.
holiday and see you in the new year. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.